The facility has rebounded in recent years, and the number of residents has declined from 370 a decade ago. However, concerns about the high cost of care at Beatrice and its shrinking population prompted lawmakers in 2016 to order a study of its future. On Tuesday, officials with Disability Rights Nebraska and the ARC of Nebraska argued that the state needed to make the transition to community-based care and plan for the closing of the Beatrice facility. Keeping the center open is unsustainable economically, said Eric Evans, CEO of Disability Rights Nebraska. To continue to invest in this facility is bad policy, Evans said. The preliminary report estimated that the annual cost of providing care at Beatrice at $332,000 a year per resident, which is about $120,000 less than previous estimates. In March, 39 staffers at the facilities were laid off to save cost. But Mike Chittenden of ARC of Nebraska said that community-based care can cost as little as $50,000 a year per person, and that keeping Beatrice open was a disservice to those on waiting lists for services. Paul?
Well, it's 10:40, and based upon the number of death notices we have, we'll switch over to that page. The obituaries are brought to you today by SEI Medical Alert. Medical alert monitoring 24/7, 365 at the push of a button. SEI, your local medical alert provider. Call 402-333-3233 or visit seimedicalalert.com for more information. And this listing will come from the Lincoln Journal-Star. Biggs, Robert Biggs of Fairmont, Minnesota. A service will be held at 3 p.m. Saturday at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Bode, Richard Bode, age 77 of Lincoln. Funeral service will be held at 2 p.m. Friday, May 12th at Lubermore Funeral Home in Friend. Arrangement by Lubermore Funeral Home in Friend. Brunsman, Robert Brunsman, age 48 of Lincoln. Memorial service will be held at 11 a.m. Saturday, May 1st. Ooh. I think that's a little past date. Anyway, it was held on May 1st at First Plymouth Congregational Church. Memorials to the University of Houston College of Engineering. Roper and Sons handled the arrangements. Dismeyer, Laverne Dismeyer, age 80 of Beatrice. No other information is available at this time. Fuller, Melvin Fuller, age 89. Additional information will be forthcoming. Gravel, Victor Gravel, age 87 of Seward. Again, no other information is available. Goodacre, Elsie Goodacre, age 92. Her funeral service will be at 10 a.m. Monday, May 15th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Hamilton, James Hamilton, age 75 of Lincoln, formerly of Cozad. Services will be held at 11 a.m. Friday, May 12th at Berryman Funeral Home Chapel in Cozad. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the Alzheimer's Association. Heyer, Shirley Heyer, age 85 of Lincoln. Funeral service will be held at 10 a.m. Friday, May 12th at First Lutheran Church in Lincoln. Memorials to the First Lutheran Church of Lincoln, Tabitha of Lincoln, or Lincoln Community Playhouse. Boothurst Mirror and Love Funeral Home on A Street is handling her arrangements. Herbster, Judith Herbster, age 62 of Falls City. Funeral service will be held at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 11th at Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in Liberty, Missouri. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to the Judith A. Herbster Foundation, which gives aid to hardworking students with financial need. Hesterman, Janice Hesterman, age 78, of Firth. Funeral service will be held at 11 a.m. on Thursday, May 11th at Christ Lutheran Church in Pickrell. Fox Funeral Home is handling her arrangements. Hunt, Richard Hunt, age 79, of Lincoln. He was a veteran. Funeral service will be held at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 11th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Johnson, Lowell Johnson, age 85, of Lincoln. Only indicates that Aspen Aftercare is handling the arrangements. Jones, Harold Jones, age 81, of Crete. He was a veteran of the U.S. Army. Burial will be held at 9 a.m. today, May 10th, at Lincoln Memorial Park. Meet at Gate 2 prior to the service. A celebration of life service will follow at 11 a.m., so that will be going on shortly at the United Church of Christ, First Congregational in Crete. In lieu of flowers, memorials can be made to Camp Quality in St. Joseph, Missouri. Kunkel Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Castanek, Donna Castanek, age 53, of Crete. Celebration of life will be held at 11 a.m. Saturday, May 13th at Kunkel Funeral Home in Crete. Klosenbacher, Reggie Klosenbacher, age 63, of Lincoln. A celebration of life service will be held at 11 a.m. Friday, May 12th at Roper and Sons Funeral Home on O Street. Cremation has occurred. Memorial contributions can be made to the family for future designation. Lane, Robert Lane, age 76, of Lincoln. He was a veteran of the U.S. Navy. Memorial services will be held at 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 11th at Roper and Sons Street. Memorials to Lincoln Lutheran Athletic Fund, Redeemer Lutheran Church, Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church, or Tabitha Foundation. Roper and Sons is handling the arrangements. Langness, Langness, age 80. Celebration of life service will be held at 11 a.m. on Friday, May 12th at Wayuka Funeral Home. Memorials can be directed to the Capital Humane Society or the Cat House, both in Lincoln, in lieu of flowers. McGinnis, Thomas McGinnis, age 90, of Falls City. No other information is available. Mess, Catherine Mess, age 95, of Fairbury. Additional information will be forthcoming. Mears, Della Mears, age 79, of Seward. Funeral service will be at 11 a.m. Friday, May 12th at St. John Lutheran Church in Seward. Memorials to the Seward Meals on Wheels, Seward County Historical Society, Seward County 4-H Girl Scouts, Zapka Funeral Home in Seward is handling the arrangements. Neely, Shirley Neely, age 90. Funeral service will be held at 1 p.m. on Thursday, May 11th at Boothurst Mazer and Love Funeral Home on A Street. Memorials are suggested to People's City Mission or Eastmont. Rollison, Maxine Rollison, age 101. Her funeral will be held at 10 a.m. Saturday, May 13th at the funeral home, which is Wayuka Funeral Home. Ryan, Joseph Ryan, age 32 of Lincoln. A celebration of life service will be held at 11 a.m. Saturday, May 13th at St. Mark's United Methodist Church. Memorials in lieu of flowers in care of Roper and Sons for Joe's Children's Educational Fund. Rybik, Arthur Rybik, R-Y-B-I-J, age 60 of Thailand. Cremation has occurred and there will be a private family service. Static, Kathleen Static, age 91. Funeral services will be at 10:30 Friday, May 12th at St. John's United Church of Christ in Syracuse. Memorials are suggested to the Syracuse Methodist Church Building Fund and the Syracuse Rescue Squad. Fusselbund Allen Harvey Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Vabra, David Vabra, age 62 of York. Funeral service will be at 10 a.m. Friday at Faith Lutheran Church in York. Metz Mortuary in York is handling the arrangements. Memorials may be directed to the family for later designation. And finally, Wood, Harlan Wood, age 69 of Lincoln. The celebration of Harlan's life will be held at 10:30 a.m. Saturday, May 13th at Lincoln Family Funeral Care. Rick?
From the Omaha World Herald, Anderson, Keith E. Anderson, age 66. Memorial service will be held Friday, May 12th, 11 a.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of P.P. Hoffman, Dort, Cutler. Memorials are suggested to the American Cancer Society, Nebraska Humane Society of America, or the American Heart Association. Anderson, Ellis Nolte Anderson. Memorial service will be held 10:30 on Saturday, May 13th at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Omaha. Bremen Mortuary is handling the services. Bledsoe, Michael L. Bledsoe, age 41. Family reception will be held 5 to 7 p.m. Friday, May the 12th at Roeder Mortuary. Blimling, Diana Jane Blimling, age 68. The family will receive, services Thursday, May 11th at 10:30 a.m. at Divine Shepherd Lutheran Church. Memorials to the Divine Shepherd Lutheran Church or Josie Harper Hospice House. Brody, Eileen Renner Brody, age 68 of Moab, Utah. A graveside service will be Saturday, May 13th at 12:30 at the St. Aloysius Cemetery. Memorials will be made at the school Sisters of St. Francis or a charity of your choice. Carlson, Della Rose Carlson, age 91. Memorial services will be held Friday, May 12th at 10:30 a.m. at the Messiah Lutheran Church in Ralston. Memorials to the family. Davis, Joy R. Johnson Davis, age 86. Services Thursday, May 11th at 10 a.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of P.P. Hoffman, Doric, Cutler. Memorials to the Alzheimer Association in Nebraska chapter. Duncanson, Bruce Allen Duncanson, age 51. Funeral services will be held Thursday, 2 p.m. at the Pacific Street Chapel of John A. Gentleman Mortuaries. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to the St. Jude's Memorial Hospital. Fibbich, Marjorie Fibbich, age 81 of Gretna. Services are pending. Flogstad, Lucinda Jo Cindy Flogstad, age 59. Mass of Christian burial Wednesday, May 10th, 10:30 a.m. at St. Pius X Catholic Church. Guffey, Lester R. Guffey, age 80. He was a veteran. Funeral services held Thursday, 10 a.m. at Park Lane Baptist Church. Memorials to St. Jude's Children's Hospital of the Shriners. Robert Roeder Mortuary is holding the services. Halsky, Clara A. Halsky, age 95 of Florissant, Missouri. Mass of Christian burial Friday, May 12th at 10 a.m. at St. Peter's and Paul Catholic Church. In lieu of flowers, memorials suggested to the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. Hanson, Stephen Carl Hanson, age 69. Mass of Christian burial Friday, May 12th at the 10 a.m. at St. Robert Bellarmine Catholic Church. Memorials may be directed to the family for remembrance to honor Steve at the Elks Club Country Club. Haroon, Susan D. Haroon, age 65. Gathering of family and friends at 5 to 7 p.m. Wednesday, May 10th at Broder Mortuary in Omaha. Hoffman, Kenneth E. Hoffman, age 74. He was a veteran of Bellevue, Nebraska. Funeral services Friday, May 12th, 2017 at 10 a.m. at Thanksgiving Lutheran Church in Bellevue. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the Thanksgiving Lutheran Church, Autism Society of America, or Christian and Missionary Alliance. Jacobson, Doris Mae Jacobson, age 90, gathering of family and friends, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday, May 11th at Bremen Mortuary, Southwest Chapel, with the prayer service at 7 p.m. Johnson, Arnell Johnson, age 85, funeral services 11 a.m. Thursday at Rising Star Baptist Church, and memorials may be directed to the family. Roder Mortuary is handling the services. McDonald, Mildred A. Millie McDonald, age 96, services at St. James Catholic Church in Kearney. Mass of Christian burial will be on Friday at 10:30 at the church. Memorials are suggested to the Mosaic Bethpage Village in Axtell. Masilko, Virginia L. Guerrero Masilko, age 87. Memorial Mass Thursday, 10:30 a.m. at St. Stephen the Martyr Catholic Church. McAllen, Richard Daniel McAllen, age 68. He was a veteran. Memorial service Friday, May 12th at 1 p.m. at the West Lawn Hillcrest. Memorials to be directed by the family. Munyon, Doyce Al Munyon, age 70. Services will be at 10:30 a.m. Saturday, May 13th at the funeral home, Kimsey Funeral Home in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Memorial will be decided at a later date. Needham, Richard F. Bud Needham, age 84, Council Bluffs. He was a veteran of the U.S. Army. Visitation with the family Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. at the funeral home, Cutler O'Neill Meyer Woodring. Memorials to St. John Lutheran Summer Camp Fund. Overby, Ronald Clark, Colonel Robert Clark Overby, U.S. Air Force veteran. He was 82. Visitation at Thanksgiving Lutheran Church, 36th and Highway 370, with memorial service in lieu of flowers. Memorials to the American Cancer Society. Military honors at the Offutt Air Force Base Honor Guard. Robert J. Bob Pecklow, age 80. He was a veteran. Celebration at Bob's Life, Thursday, May 11th, 10:30 a.m. Also at Bremen Mortuary, 72nd Street Chapel. Peterson, Gerald William Jerry Peterson, age 70. Celebration of Life. Luncheon for family and friends will be held on Saturday, May 13th from 12 to 4 at the IBEW Hall, 13306 Stevens Street in Omaha. Priziazny, James S. Priziazny, age 67. Celebration of Life service Friday, May 12th at 11 a.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of Efi Hoffman, Dory Cutler. Memorials will be directed by the family. Pulverenti, Rhea M. Pulverenti, age 83. Visitation will be held Saturday, May 13th, 10 to 11:30 a.m. at West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home. Memorials to the Alzheimer's Association of Nebraska. Quinlan, Stephen L. Steve Quinlan, age 52. There will be a private interment later. Reagan, James M. Reagan, age 75. A Mass of Christian burial at 11 a.m. Friday at St. Thomas More Catholic Church. Memorials suggested to Omaha Youth Hockey or Britain Area Hospice in Britain, South Dakota. Robbins, Carol Robbins, age 80, of Louisville, Nebraska. Memorial service will be Friday, May 12th at 1 p.m. at First Christian Church in Louisville. Siragusa, Georgia M. Siragusa, age 92. Complete notice will be issued later. Skelton, Helen L. Skelton, age 99. The family would like to direct memorials to the Notre Dame Sisters in Omaha in honor of Sister Christine Elias. Stevenson, Charles H. Chuck Stevenson, age 76, of Omaha, formerly of Sioux City. Celebration of Life will be held 1 p.m. Saturday, May 12th at the Church of All Nations in Sioux City. Swanson, K.M. Swanson, 77. Visitation Wednesday, May 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Bellevue Memorial Chapel. Memorial service will be Thursday, May 11th at the Bellevue Memorial Chapel. Memorials to the Altrusa Club of Bellevue Foundation and Bellevue Public Schools Foundation. Tomlinson, Robert Lee Tomlinson, age 77. He was a veteran. Services Wednesday, May 10th at 11 a.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of Heaphy Hoffman, Doric Cutler. Military honors by the Benson VFW Post 2503. Taberti, Arthur J. Taberti, age 86. Celebration of Arthur's life on Thursday, May 11th at 11 a.m. at the funeral home, Bethany Funeral Home. Interment at Omaha National Cemetery with military honors by the American Legion Post 331. Van Sant, Leonard P. Van Sant, age 92. He was a veteran. Memorial Mass will be held Saturday, 10:30 a.m. at St. Thomas More Catholic Church. Memorials to the Eastern Nebraska Veterans Home. John A. Gentleman Mortuaries is handling the services. Widener, Elton J. Widener, age 85. He was a veteran. Mass of Christian burial will be held Friday, 10 a.m. at St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church in Omaha. Memorials to the church, parish center, or the Franciscan Center at Newcastle. Welsh, Elizabeth J. Welsh, age 80. Services are pending. Wharton, Thomas E. Wharton Sr., age 88. He was a veteran. Funeral will be Friday, May 12th at 10:30 a.m. in Mount Calvary Lutheran Church. Interment at the Holy Sepulchre with full military honors. Memorials are suggested to Mount Calvary Lutheran Church. And finally, Wisecarver, Marjorie Curtis Wisecarver, age 98. Services will be held Friday, May 12th at 11 a.m. at the First Covenant Church. Interment at Forest Lawn. Memorials to the First Covenant Church. Listeners' memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donors' choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter.
Appreciate it.
Yes, this is civil.
You go first. Sure. See, I was getting ready.
Look like it's Gonna stop ringing. Well, we're back for the second hour, and it's 11:04, so we'll turn to the editorial page, and I will be reading from the Lincoln Journal-Star's editorial page. This article is written by Dana Milbank. Out of Washington, how does this happen? On Wednesday, the House passed a $1.2 trillion spending bill by a lopsided margin of 309 to 118. Majority of both Democrats and Republicans supported the measure, which sailed through the Senate. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, and House Speaker Paul Ryan, Republican of Wisconsin, alike celebrated. And President Trump said of the spending bill, "This is what winning looks like." Yet the day after this bill passed the House, the chamber split down the middle as it passed the Trump Care legislation repealing Obamacare. All 193 Democrats and 20 Republicans opposed the bill, which survived by a margin of 217 to 213 and goes to the Senate, where it is so toxic that lawmakers there don't even plan to consider it. Pelosi bitterly told Republicans they would have the bill tattooed on their forehead. "You will glow in the dark on this one," Democrats saying, "Hey, hey, hey, goodbye," to Republicans on the floor House. How could the people's representatives swing in the space of 24 hours from bipartisan congratulations to partisan recriminations? In Trump's approach. In the case of the spending bill, he acted as president of all Americans. He negotiated a compromise that thrilled nobody but satisfied the vast majority. In the case of the health care bill, he catered to the most extreme elements of the Republican Party, the 30 or so members of the House Freedom Caucus, winding up with a radical and splash dash bill that would be at direct odds with what Americans say they want. Democrats crowed a bit too much about the spending agreement, which avoided funds for a border wall and a deportation force, and avoided the defunding of sanctuary cities and Planned Parenthood. It didn't embrace Trump's proposed non-defense cuts. Pelosi bragged that we handed President Trump a resounding defeat. That wasn't entirely true. Trump got spending increases for defense and for border security, and more school choice in the form of the DC Scholarship Opportunity Program. Trump called the bill a clear win for the American people. Unfortunately, that wasn't the lesson he wound up taking away from the experience. An aide said Trump was angry that Democrats were spiking the ball by declaring victory. Trump tweeted that when the current agreement expires, our country needs a good shutdown in September to fix the mess. This is exactly the wrong instinct, because such thinking created the Trump Care abomination on Thursday. Republicans hypocritically jammed the bill through the House before members could read it or it could be given a price tag. They would eliminate popular protections for people with pre-existing conditions, make older people pay more, and give huge tax breaks to the wealthy. They would even eliminate protections against catastrophic costs for people on their employers' plans. Thus did Trump and congressional leaders cause House Republican lawmakers to walk the plank on health care, passing a bill that the Senate won't even consider, just to satisfy 30 extremists from safe districts. And it was unnecessary. For all the partisan fireworks, there is a healthcare policy consensus out there for the taking. A Kaiser Family Foundation poll last month found a broad consensus on many healthcare policies that crosses party lines, allowing the federal government to negotiate Medicare drug prices, 92%, making it easier to bring generic drugs to market, 87%, and requiring drug companies to disclose how they set prices, 86%. The major elements of Obamacare, except for the individual mandate, are broadly popular. What Americans want across party lines is what Obamacare didn't do well, making overall healthcare and prescriptions cheaper overall. In fact, on most issues, there is more consensus among Americans than most people realize. Research by the centrist group Third Way finds there is a consensus in favor of renewable energy if it isn't paired with rules cracking down on fossil fuels, citizenship for illegal immigrants if paired with crackdowns on border security and illegal hiring, American leadership abroad if it doesn't mean boots on the ground, and universal background checks on gun sales if there aren't gun bans. The problem is the consensus on these and many other issues breaks down when it is filtered through the lens of party. Once parties take sides, Americans take cues from leaders and shift their views to get in line. If Trump, who only recently became Republican, wants to win until we're tired of winning, there's an obvious path to consensus. Alternatively, he and the members of the Freedom Caucus can celebrate the virtues of partisan popularity and ideological impurity in a very small room. Rick?
Trump's first foreign trip has an ambitious agenda. The White House announced last week that President Donald Trump would travel starting May 19th to Saudi Arabia, Jerusalem, Rome, Brussels for a NATO meeting, and Sicily for a Group of 7 gathering. It set off a round of speculation as to what he intends to try to achieve during the trip. The first 3 stops, Riyadh, Jerusalem, and Rome, could have a peace through faith theme. King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud Salman of Saudi Arabia is Islam's custodian of the 2 holy mosques. Jerusalem is sacred to Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, as well as Israel's professed capital. Rome is the seat of Pope Francis, who has just returned from a trip to Cairo to promote peace and cooperation between Muslims and Christians, particularly in the Middle East. Trump can pursue the possibility of Israel-Palestine peace talks in all 3 of his first stops. In Riyadh, he apparently plans to meet with leaders of the Sunni Muslim Gulf Cooperation Council, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. He will need to be careful not to get signed on too clearly to the Sunni side in the intra-Islamic Sunni-Shiite conflict in the region by the Saudis. One issue he should concentrate on is withdrawing U.S. involvement from the Saudi Arabian-Iran Sunni-Shiite conflict in Yemen. If Trump wants to involve his administration in one more college try to get substantial talks going between Israelis and Palestinians, he can lead hard on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, currently bogged down in corruption charges. Trump just met and may meet again with acting Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Probably pointless given Abbas' lack of credibility among Palestinians. Pope Francis could be helpful if there were a credible push for Middle East peace. The Pope is ever hopeful about peace, but not unrealistic in what he expects from leaders such as Trump. Trump's May 24th appearance at the NATO summit in Brussels will be important in terms of whom he meets with and against the background of his contradictory statements about the utility of the organization and what they mean to the other 27 NATO members in terms of their own strategic spending and other strategic planning. The Group of Seven meeting in Sicily would give Trump a good snapshot of the current world economic situation. The fact that it is 7 rather than 8, with Russia kicked out in 2014, raises another interesting question. Trump could have chosen to visit Moscow and President Vladimir Putin, but he didn't, probably feeling the heat of the continuing House, Senate, and FBI investigations into ties between Russia and his presidential campaign. He could also have chosen to visit Canada or Mexico first overseas, as many American presidents have done, but he didn't, no doubt uncertain of his reception in the two neighboring countries, given his wall and the possible future of the North American Free Trade Agreement. All in all, however, Americans should be pleased to see their foreign affairs neophyte president coming face to face in 5 different settings with other world leaders and the problems that beset them. He won't be the first American president to undergo that education by contact and fire. Paul?
In these couple of letters to the editor, there is an enduring hue of cry regarding excessive government regulation and growing government spending. So why do we need a new regulation requiring a photo ID to vote, an additional budget expense for providing IDs to those who don't have one, when there is a minuscule or no demonstrable problem that requires such an ID? Government impeding the right to vote of qualified citizens is not a conservative principle. That was written by William Thomas of Lincoln. It is time to end the closing of streets around the Haymarket Park complex for summer games. I've never seen it close for fall football. So why is it that the streets are closed for the softball and baseball games? Was it because someone way back when the park was open thought there would be too much traffic? Well, yes, this is a venue that creates traffic, and it is good for business along 10th Street. Now, with the closure of 10th Street between Military and Highway 6 for overdue bridge work, it is even more thoughtful to discontinue the practice of closing local streets and get traffic moving in the right direction. That was written by Robert Buzzard of Lincoln. Rick?
What GOP senators need to do now. With the House passage of the American Health Care Act, the House Republican leaders have handed their Senate counterparts the biggest legislative weapon they have held in their entire careers. Senate Republicans should learn from a bit of wisdom often attributed to one of the wittiest and most clear-eyed founders, Ben Franklin. We must indeed all hang together, he supposedly told the Continental Congress in 1776, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately. If the 52 GOP senators agree to stay together and maneuver through the next months together, they could bring about a huge breakthrough for the country and a rejection of the gridlock that has consumed the Senate for years. The Senate GOP should begin their part of the legislative process with a sort of Republican Hippocratic oath. First, do no damage in your statements and press appearances. Stake out no must-haves, demand no specific changes. Stash the posturing at the town halls. Duck off questions on specifics. Smile and say no comment. Just stick to a message of we're working together as a caucus toward a common goal of saving American health care from Obamacare and advancing other critical goals. The other 49 GOP senators could demand that Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Majority Whip John Cornyn of Texas, and Republican Conference Chair John Thune of South Dakota bring back from negotiations with Democrats a major keeper and a majority builder, a bill or a group of bills that addresses Obamacare's many deficiencies, as well as a reversal of the sequester's limits on defense spending, a commitment on moving judicial nominees forward, and tax reform. This would do good for the country and lay the groundwork for expanding the GOP majority in the 2018 midterms. Republicans will need both a carrot and a stick to get Democrats to the table. Republicans can threaten straight-line approval of the House bill via the reconciliation process, which prohibits filibusters. Pledge from all 52 GOP senators to go that route, if necessary, is the hammer that should make Democrats step up to the table to negotiate the numerous problems facing the country and left behind by President Barack Obama. For Minority Leader Charles Schumer of New York to sit down and deal with McConnell, though, Schumer needs more than just threats. He needs some genuine wins for his base. There are several opinions here: tweaks to the new healthcare regime, immigration reform that allows the dreamers and millions millions more who haven't broken any laws since illegally entering the country to stay and work, but not to vote, and of course, infrastructure spending. With the last option in particular, there is mutual interest that can mean dollars for every state and every imperiled Democratic senator standing in 2018. Republicans can score a win by requiring that those dollars be spent by the state and local governments, preferably the local governments and not by Washington. Loading the agreement with a good bit of spending, with ending the defense sequester as top priority, will make it all go much easier for all concerned. If the 52 Republicans can sign a letter to Schumer threatening speedy approval of the House bills absent serious negotiation and an agreed upon comprehensive big deal, then those with qualms about the House version can get their fixes embedded in the final health care bill, and those with needs outside of the American Health Care Act can work through the leader to obtain them. Paul?
Well, it's 11:20, and we'll shift over to today's Living and Entertainment. Out of Los Angeles, Jimmy Kimmel zinged his critics as he returned to late-night TV and resumed arguing that Americans deserve the level of health care given his infant son. Back on ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live, Monday after a week's absence, he said baby Billy is recovering well from open heart surgery for a heart defect and thanked well wishers. Then he charged back into the fraught topic. I made an emotional speech that was seen by millions, and as a result of my powerful words on that night, Republicans in Congress had second thoughts about repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act, he joked. I saved health insurance in the United States of America. What's that? I didn't save it? They voted against it anyway, Kimball said. The House approved the American Health Care Act last week. He dismissed those who labeled him an elitist. As a youngster, his family bought powdered milk because they couldn't afford fresh, he said, and pretended to repent for his previous comments. I'd like to apologize for saying that children in America should have healthy care. It was insensitive. It was offensive, and I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me, Kimball said. He took on former Representative Newt Gingrich, saying his claim that all children would receive the same surgery as Kimball's son in an emergency fell short of addressing what follows. That's terrific if your baby's health problems are all solved during that one visit. The only problem is that never, ever happens. We've had a dozen doctor's appointments since our son had surgery, Kimball said. Kimball brought on a current GOP lawmaker, U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, a physician, who had suggested that the Senate upcoming health care legislation should have a Jimmy Kimmel test of covering pre-existing conditions, but in a fiscally conservative way. You're on the right track, Cassidy said, but the country has to be able to pay for it. Don't give me a huge tax cut to millionaires like me, Kimball replied. Rick?
Scientists to reflect on Cosmos in Omaha, Michael Kelly's column. For bringing Cosmos to the masses in an engaging way, Neil deGrasse Tyson has been called a rock star scientist, not to mention the sexiest astrophysicist alive. That, he said with a laugh, was 40 pounds ago. Tyson, 58, chuckled easily and often in a 45-minute phone chat from New York City, where he lives with his wife and 2 children and runs the Hayden Planetarium at the American Museum of Natural History. He grew up in the Bronx and first visited the Hayden when he was 9. He got his first telescope at 12 and lugged it to the rooftop of his apartment building. He gave astronomy lectures at 15. With degrees from Harvard, Texas, and Columbia universities, he has enjoyed an unplanned but popular career in radio and TV, including an appearance on the comedic Big Bang Theory. He even has an asteroid named for him. Now, stargazer Tyson is bringing his star power to Omaha for a Talk Monday at the Holland Performing Arts Center. It's partly to promote a new book, his 13th, Astrophysicist for People in a Hurry. It's a great title, and at 5 by 8 inches in hardback, it's intended to be portable and to be read, he said, while you wait to board a bus, a train, or an airplane. It's a curated offering, Tyson said, of all that is mind-blowing in the universe. His ability to talk and write about the heavens in down-to-earth language is part of what makes him appealing to all ages. After I scheduled our interview, I learned that my 5th grade granddaughter in Ohio this year had delivered an oral class report with photos on Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, cool, he said. How'd she do? He also perked up. His public persona always seems perked up when I mentioned that my 8th grade grandson in Florida was completing a 2-year academic year junior astronaut class with a simulated Mars voyage for 45 hours. Kids are curious about the world in ways that are long forgotten when people become adults, Tyson said. For me, if you retain your childhood curiosity into adulthood, then you're simply a scientist. Kids have always been interested. The real problem in society is scientifically illiterate adults, especially for those who rise to power, he said. Scientific illiteracy in the public policy can be a recipe for disaster. So his take on mankind's effect on climate change? It's not a debate, he said, period. Move on. That's not an opinion. Science is a matter of emergent consensus. The consensus of observation and measurement is that humans are warming the planet, and that has consequences. All who attend his Omaha talk will receive a copy of his book. The sponsoring Omaha Performing Arts said ticket sales are strong at $65 to $225 each, and some price ranges are sold out. If interested, go to www.ticketomaha.com, stop at the Holland lobby, or call 402-345-0606. Well,
Okay, it's time for the doctor to make a house call. Dear doctor, my cardiovascular surgeon tells me medicine has mostly abandoned shunt and stent placements as a solution to carotid artery plaques. Instead, doctors are returning to the older rotor-rooter procedures because patient outcomes have proven less problematic. What's your take on this? Dear reader, let's start with an anatomy lesson. The common carotid arteries are major suppliers of blood to the brain. You have 2 of them, and you can feel their pulse at the side of your neck, lateral to your Adam's apple. They split in the neck to become the external and internal carotid arteries, which supply blood to the majority of the brain. Turbulent blood flow at the location of these splits contributes to the formation of plaque, internal carotid arteries, as do other factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and smoking. This plaque can rupture and cause closure of the artery, or a portion of the plaque can break off and lodge in the smaller arteries. In either circumstance, a stroke occurs, leading to a significant loss of neurologic function. Thus, if the internal carotid artery is significantly closed with plaque, it is necessary to clear the plaque. What you describe as rotor-rooter procedure is called a carotid endoarteriectomy. A surgeon performs an endoarteriectomy via an incision in the neck, taking care to maintain blood flow to that side of the brain. He or she clamps the internal carotid artery, makes an incision in the artery, and locates the plaque. The surgeon then frees the plaque from the lining of the artery and removes it before closing the blood vessel and placing a patch on the artery to prevent complications. Obviously, the procedure is not without risk. The death rate from endoarteriectomy varies between 0.5 and 3%. Also, the rate of having a stroke during the procedure ranges between 0.25 and 3% and depends on how severe the plaque is and the skill and experience of the surgeon. Carotid artery stenting is a different type of procedure in which the surgeon places a catheter between a major artery, usually the femoral artery in the groin, then moves it via wire up to the internal carotid artery. The surgeon then dilates the artery, if necessary, and lodges the stent into its lining. On the surface, stenting may sound less dangerous, but studies have not found this to be the case. A 2012 analysis of 16 studies found that in the 30 days after the procedure, stenting had a higher rate of combined death and stroke, 8.2%, compared to endoarteriectomy at 5%. A separate study also linked stenting to more minor strokes. But note that the difference in death in major stroke was not seen among patients less than 70 years of age. And other studies have shown that over time frames of 4.2 to 10 years, the rates of major strokes and death show less of a benefit with the carotid endoarteriectomy versus stenting. Still, as of now, research suggests that the carotid endoarteriectomy is clearly the better procedure, especially if you're over the age of 70. But note that each patient is different. In difficult surgical situations, stenting remains a good alternative. And with newer carotid stenting techniques currently in development, the choices for individuals will continue to evolve. Rick?
Don't wait till June to listen for tunes. Summer may be a month away, but in the world of live music, things are already heating up. It all kicks off this week with a trio of shows playing out over 3 days. Tonight and Friday, you can see Chance the Rapper, the hottest act in hip-hop, having earned universal acclaim for his latest record, as well as 3 Grammy Awards. He's at the top of his game, and he's coming to Omaha. So are 2 of the other biggest names in hip-hop, Run the Jewels and Kendrick Lamar, who play back-to-back nights in August. Soundgarden, one of the 3 artists included alongside Nirvana and Pearl Jam to make grunge explode out of Seattle, and they're coming here for the first time in 25 years. Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, country mega masters in their own right, but one of the top-selling couples of all time, with 61.3 million albums sold, according to Billboard. It only gets better from there. Keep an eye out for the day in August where you can walk into any of 4 high-profile Omaha area venues and know that you're about to see an unforgettable show. Watch for 4 straight days in July where you can camp out at Stir Concert Cove and hit a great show every night. Do a little stretching before we get to August because there's a 17-day run where you'll see current and future rock and roll Hall of Famers, some of the best rappers alive, the biggest pop star in the world, and your favorite bands from 20 years ago. It's a lot to process, so I made a list of the 20 shows I'm most excited about. I'm betting there's something for you that you'd like on the list also. 1. Jason Isbell and the 400 unit, The Mountain Goats, will appear July 5th at the Sumter Amphitheater. Number 2, Maha Music Festival, August 19th in Stinson Park. Maha's always gotten pretty good headliners, even if they weren't personal favorites. But when the Indie Rock Festival booked hip-hop duo Run the Jewels, it's landed another one of my all-time favorites. 3. 311 on June 30th in downtown Lincoln. 4. Chance the Rapper, today at the CenturyLink Center. We don't always land the biggest rappers, and it's less common for us to catch them at the top of their game. Number 5, Spoon, September 11th at the Sokol Auditorium. Spoon never ceases to delight. The thumping, grooving indie rock band's latest album, Hot Thoughts, is another winner. Number 6, Iron Maiden, July 9th at the Pinnacle Bank Arena. In the 80s, Iron Maiden came to Nebraska relatively often, but the epic heavy metal band hasn't been anywhere near here since 1988. Number 7, Cody Jinks, June 15th at the Slowdown Outdoors. When I first saw Cody Jinks, I immediately took notice. Number 8, the Shins, May 20th at Stir Cove. If you've seen Garden State, you know the perhaps now cheese ball line. You got to hear this one song. It'll change your life, I swear. Then Zach Braff puts on headphones and hears the Shins, the new slang. Number 9, Rockfest, Friday, the West Fair Amphitheater. Radio station 89.7 The River assembles a day of rock each year at West Fair, and this year's lineup is at its best in a while. Seminole Grunge and band Soundgarden headlines the festivities, and they haven't played near here since 1992. It's going to be a blast to see them thunder through a set, along with Papa Roach, The Pretty Reckless, Dillinger Escape Plan, and a bunch more. Number 10. Coldplay, August 14th at the CenturyLink Center. Number 11, BJ Barham, June 13th at the Waiting Room Lounge. The smallest show on this list features a favorite songwriter. Barham is the frontman for alt country group American. Number 12, Green Day, August 12th at the CenturyLink Center. Nearly 30 years later, Green Day can still blow the doors off a building. Number 13, Fleet Foxes and Future Islands, September 29th and 30th at the Waiting Room Outdoors. Number 14, Nora Jones, June 5th at the Orpheum Theater. The incomparable singer-songwriter is a delight in concert. She is simply fantastic. Number 15, Keisha and the Creepies, July 20th at Stir Cove. Number 16, Queen and Adam Lambert, July 8th at CenturyLink Center. And number 17, Paul McCartney, July 23rd at the CenturyLink Center. One of the greatest songwriters of all time, one of the greatest singers of all time. Sure is. One of the top-selling artists of all time, yes, indeed. What else is there to say? Well, the 74-year-old still got it. Sir Paul won't let you down. Number 18, Willie Nelson, Dwight Yoakam, and Robert Earl Keen, June 7th at the Pinewood Bowl. With all due respect to Willie, I'm more excited about the down ticket acts. I'll be there mostly to see Dwight Yoakam. Number 19, Bruno Mars, August 7th at the Pinnacle Bank Arena. There are pop singers and there are guys like Bruno Mars, who is the full package. He can write pop tunes, he can sing, he can dance, his band is great, and his show is extremely entertaining. And finally, number 20, Kendrick Lamar, August 18th at the Pinnacle Bank Arena. Lamar is a late add to the list, and he's a rapper with an unblemished record. His last 3 albums are pretty much perfect, and he has the Grammy Awards. Paul?
Well, we'll shift over to Dear Amy. I have a 33-year-old stepdaughter. She's single, well-educated, has a very well-paying job, and rents an apartment. She has goals to marry, buy a house, have children, and have other life experiences. But she has $60,000 in outstanding student loans. I am very concerned that she is not more focused on rapidly paying down those loans, particularly while she spends money on travel, weekend getaways, and other discretionary purchases. I worry that carrying these loans in her 30s and maybe into her 40s will derail her goals. I also worry that she might think that her father and I and or other relatives will just give her the money to pay off the loans. We are not in the financial position to do so at anywhere near the level of $60,000. As stepmother, I am not able to directly address these matters with her. Her father is in a hesitant, reluctant state of mind and doesn't want to upset his daughter, who never asks for advice and is quick to deflect any offers of same. In addition, he feels guilty that he isn't able to just write her a check. How can I help him to help her? Signed, Worried Stepmother. Dear Worried, one of the burdens of being a step-parent is that you spend much of your parenting time watching from the sidelines and judging the choices and parenting style of your spouse. But you don't carry the guilt your husband does. You will never worry about this daughter in the same way he does. You aren't afraid of this daughter's wrath quite the same way he is. My main advice is for you and your husband to let this 33-year-old woman live her life the way she chooses to. She sounds smart enough and functional enough to do the math and see where her choices lead her. I'm not sure why she is informing or involving you in her loan load or repayment schedule, but the message from your husband to his daughter should be, quote, I wish I could, but I cannot and will not help you to retire this debt, end of quote. If she is taking fun and expensive vacations and then complaining to you about her debt, then you get to say, well, you're making choices about the way you want to live. We want you to live your best life and to be happy. If the way you are living is good for you, then keep doing what you're doing. If not, then you're smart enough to figure out how to make different choices. You and your husband must be on the same page regarding your own shared finances. He should not bail out any family member without your assent. Rick?
In business and markets, New York-based private equity firm plans to buy Omaha's West Corp. Omaha-based West Corp, a pioneer in the telemarketing industry, an employer of 1,200 in the area, said late Tuesday it would be purchased by a private equity firm, taking the company off the public stock exchange and putting into question at least some of its future operations. A spokesman for the company told the World Herald on Tuesday evening that the purchase by New York-based Apollo Global Management shouldn't affect the day-to-day operations of the company in Omaha or its employee count. Even though private equity firms often shake up firms they buy, sometimes selling units, slashing employees, or moving headquarters offices, the spokesman said none of that is in the cards at the moment for West. David Police, the new spokesman said employees really shouldn't see any impact at all. Right now, everything is going to be in place just as it is today, so we don't really expect any changes. The company last fall said it would undergo a so-called strategic review, oftentimes Wall Street speak for selling all or part of a company. Since then, it had proffered no updates on the progress or the review, only to say it was ongoing. As part of the review, the company said its executives and their hired advisors would look for ways to maximize long-term shareholder value. West Chairman and Chief Executive Tom Barker said at the time. He said investors hadn't been valuing this company accurately. Its stock price was weighed down, he said, by differing valuations for disparate parts of the firm. Some Wall Street analysts have pointed out potential strong growth in a company division that helps administer employee wellness programs, and another sends out safety and other alerts to parents of school children. Those units are weighed down, some analysts say, by a challenged telephone conference call business that is fending off online and other competitors. It's unclear what Apollo's plans for West are. Whether it will split apart lines of businesses, sell off others, or continue operating the company as is. Apollo, like most private equity companies, is known for buying firms, making changes, and then selling the companies or shepherding them back to the public markets for a quick profit. Among its current and previous stakes, Norwegian Cruise Lines, ADT Home Security, and the Hostess Bakery. Paul?
But just over a month to go before health insurers have to declare their intentions for selling policies in 2018, things remain up in the air in Nebraska. No company has yet submitted forms or rates to the Nebraska Department of Insurance, although that information is not officially due until June 15th. However, one of the two companies that currently sells individual health insurance policies that comply with the Affordable Care Act says it intends to remain in the market next year. At this point, we are still planning to sell products across Nebraska in 2018. Greg Burry, a Medica spokesman, said in an email. Medica sells policies both on and off the federal marketplace exchange in Nebraska, and Burry did not specify in his statement whether the company plans to sell both in 2018. Medica, which is based in Minnesota, only sells ACA-compliant policies in half a dozen Midwestern states, and last week it said it may pull out of Iowa. Aetna, the other company that sells ACA compliant policies in Nebraska, recently announced it will pull out of both Iowa and Virginia in 2018, leaving Nebraska and Delaware as the only remaining states where it has a presence. Aetna so far has declined to provide any guidance about its Nebraska plans. We will communicate decisions in our remaining states as appropriate, an Aetna spokesman said in an email. The number of providers participating in the exchanges in Nebraska already has been cut in half. The state's two largest insurers, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska and United Healthcare, both dropped out this year. When it announced its decision in September, Blue Cross said it might consider re-entering the ACA market in the future. But the company said this week that it has not made a decision for 2018. Complicating health insurers' decision-making process is the fate of the Affordable Care Act. The House of Representatives last week passed the American Health Care Act, which has some key differences, some of which are not favorable to insurers. The law also could dramatically change the way the marketplace exchanges work. The AHCA still has to be approved by the Senate, which may make major changes to the bill. The push to replace the ACA leaves a lot of uncertainty for insurers. Rick.
In sports, a big ninth for the Jays. Even though UNO used 11 pitchers on Tuesday, Thomas Luvano was picking up a pattern. Whatever pitch sequence the Mavericks used against Creighton leadoff hitter Isaac Collins in the non-conference game at Werner Park, he was seeing those exact same pitches batting behind him. So when UNO reliever James Smith threw a first pitch curveball to Collins in the tie ball game with the runner on base in the top of the ninth inning, Luvano knew what was coming his way immediately. Going into it, I was expecting a loopy first pitch curveball, he said. I left it right there and I got it. Luvano capped his 4-hit night by roping a 2-run homer into the seats beyond the left field fence to give the Blue Jays a 7-5 lead over the Mavs, setting the stage for a record-setting finish by David Gerber. The Creighton closer then pitched around a leadoff single with the help of a diving catch by center fielder Nicholas Ortega to close out the victory and become the Blue Jay career saves leader with 25. I've said it before, winning means everything to me and my teammates, he said. When you get a chance to go into the last inning with the lead, it's always exciting. We were all ecstatic in the bullpen. Will Robertson had 3 hits and drove in 4 runs, taking Creighton to leads of 3-0 and 5-2. His 2-run homer off Brett Sass in the 5th put the advantages back to 3 after UNO had pulled within 1. The Blue Jays had numerous chances to extend their cushion, but stranded 14 runners in the win. They left the bases loaded in the 4th, 5th, and 8th innings, allowing the Mavs to rally late to tie it. Bothered might not be a strong enough word, Creighton coach Ed Servais said. We had some really poor at-bats with guys in scoring position, multiple times with the bases loaded and 1 out. We don't put the ball in play. We don't swing. Trust me, I'm glad we won. Thomas had a great at-bat in the 9th. We should have had a few more runs, but we didn't swing the bat tonight like I was hoping that we'd see. The Blue Jays did out-hit the Mavs 12-9. UNO didn't plate any of its runners off a base hit. It scored on 2 groundouts, a squeeze bunt, a pass ball, and a sacrifice fly. The latter in the 7th tied it up 5-5. We battled enough, Mavs coach Evan Porter said. We came back from a 3-run deficit. It's good to see that. All we're asking them to do is compete and give their best effort. I think they did that tonight. Ethan DeCaster, 4-1, stymied a UNO rally in the 7th inning by getting Creighton out on a 2-on, 1-out jam. He worked around a 1-out single by Cole Patterson an inning later to set the stage for Luvano. Paul?
In this article out of Grand Island, Keith Kester remembers hearing about this kid who was moving from Bellevue with plans to attend Grand Island's Central Catholic his sophomore year. There was quite a bit of anticipation about it. It sounds like there was a good chance he might be a football player, Kester said. He soon got verification with his own eyes. John Perella was a football player, all right. A year or two passed, and there was some buzz that a few colleges were interested in Perella. Then one day, Kester, a longtime teacher and coach at GICC, looks across the practice field and notices a Husker assistant coach standing there. He remembers it being Jack Pierce. I remember thinking, I think John's pretty good, but if Nebraska's here watching him, I'm not used to that. The rest of the story is known around here. Perella came to Nebraska, became an all Big 8 defensive tackle and part of a team that won 3 conference titles. Then he went to the NFL and played for 12 years and was on 3 teams that made it to the Super Bowl. Then he got into coaching in 2009 and quickly worked his way from the prep levels to the man in charge of leading Nebraska's defensive line in 2016. So the reasons run long why Grand Island Central Catholic on Tuesday night retired the number 89 jersey that Perella wore while attending school there. All those accomplishments Perella has had since graduating in 1988 are special. But in the end, you always go back to where you're from, Perella said, as he was honored in the GICC gymnasium. Perella praised his teammates and his old high school coach, Carl Tesmer. He thanked Tom Osborne and former Husker coordinator Charlie McBride, who is like a dad to me, and still messages or talks to him every day. I even asked my wife, how should I feel? Old, Perella said. She laughed. No, but I'm humbled. It's an honor. It's something that probably really should go back to all the guys I played with that were here, that set me up to play college football. Perella spent time talking with some of those old teammates Tuesday. He jokingly asked his former quarterback at GICC if he could remember a certain audible. I guess you sit back and wonder if this will ever be you. And you go, nah, that will never happen, Perella said. Well earned, Kester's told those gathered at the GICC spring banquet. He's never seen one with as much leadership on the field as Perella, a tough guy too. He was the defensive tackle where long sleeves don't exist in my world, Kester said. Perella doesn't have one specific memory that sticks out from his high school days. He thinks more of the men who taught him, like Tesmer. Not just a great football coach, but a great person, Perella said. He's taken a lot of the main themes he learned at GICC with him and used them as a coach now. Faith, character, commitment, leadership. The words roll off the tongue for Perella. They mean a lot to him, and it all started here at the spot. The one thing I learned as a player is that you don't have to be the most athletic. I was never the best athlete on any team I ever played on, especially the defensive line, where the guys were probably the meanest sickos you've ever met in your life. They really were. But the one thing about it was you could outwork them, Perella told the crowd. I don't care what you're doing, football, a job, whatever it may be. There's 24 hours a day, and your body really doesn't need as much sleep as you think it really does. Those were the things that I was taught here. Rick?
It's interesting. I was a GICC grad myself, and I was a tight end on the team when Carl Tesmer was its quarterback.
Oh.
In football, the NFL's ultimate winners lost. 72 Dolphins, known for a perfect record, becoming face a brain injury issue. Something is very wrong with Nick Bonacotti, one of the best-known players on the vaunted 1972 Miami Dolphins, the only NFL team to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. Bonacotti, along with some of his former teammates and other former NFL players, is becoming very vulnerable as he ages, whether that is attributed to chronic traumatic encephalopathy is unknown because it is detectable only at autopsy. But Bonacotti, like so many other former NFL players, knows this much: something is not right. For Bonacotti and his wife, Lynn, the last 4 years have been increasingly terrifying, as they tell Sports Illustrated's S.L. Price. Bonacotti, a Hall of Fame linebacker, has fallen, experienced memory loss, and struggles to do things such as pull on a shirt and tie his tie. I feel lost, the 14-year-old NFL veteran told Price. I feel like a child. The story also describes the decline of Dolphins running back Jim Kick, who lived in squalor until he was put in an assisted care facility last summer with dementia, early onset Alzheimer's disease. Manny Fernandez, a defensive lineman on the team, told the Miami Herald last year that he knew of 4 players from the 72 team who were having cognitive issues but did not name them. Dick Anderson, a safety, added that 2 require assistance. Quarterback Earl Morrall was 79 and suffering from Parkinson's when he died in 2014. His brain showed stage 4 CTE, which occurs after repeated or traumatic hits to the head. The brain and spine of the defensive end, Bill Stanfill, were sent to Boston University's CET Center after his death at age 69 last fall. Price relates the harrowing story of how Bonacotti, 76, fell down a flight of stairs and in frustration shouted to his wife, "I should just kill myself, it doesn't matter." All too many former NFL players, such as Junior Seau, have done just that, and perhaps the willingness of Bonacotti to put a high-profile face on their struggles and decline will help, as it did when he co-founded the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis after his son Mark was injured playing football 30 years ago. This has been my dad's reality for a while now. It's been a frustrating and heartbreaking journey, Mark Bonacotti said in a statement to the Miami Herald. To see him like this after all he's done to help others breaks my heart and makes me want to do everything I can to find some answers for them and the countless other athletes dealing with other issues. We ask for your continued support as we try to help my father as he wages his courageous battle. The Bonacottis are seeking answers for themselves and others. I did the article precisely for all the guys who don't have a voice and are suffering like I'm suffering, Bonacotti told the Herald on Monday evening. It's not getting any better. I'd love to talk to you more, but at this point in time, I'm exhausted. I went to a physical therapy today and occupational therapy today, and it leaves me drained. Price also describes how difficult common tasks have become, writing how Bonacotti teetered as he left the stage of the Legends Invitational Dinner last November in Pebble Beach, where Nick was reunited with many of his former teammates. Few saw it, and fewer noticed Nick motioning for Lynn as he bolted from the ballroom, perhaps because of his neurodegenerative dementia, or the yet unspoken opinion that his condition could actually be corticobasal syndrome, complicated by an atypical Parkinsonian syndrome, or CTA, or Alzheimer's. He had to pee, and Lynn had to stand by him to unbutton and unzip him and ensure that he'd emerge from the men's room dry and unexposed, wrote Price. Last fall, Price said Bonacotti called and left a voice message. Nick, his words slightly halting, asked him to call him back, Price writes, and recited his number. Okay, he said. Goodbye. Then came a long pause. You could hear him turn away from the phone. Finally, Bonacotti asked, how do you hang up, Lynn? Paul?
Anthony Banderas would like nothing better than to follow his father and older brother's lead and be a Nebraska football player in a couple of years. The Lincoln Southwest junior, however, is blazing his own path as a thrower on the Silverhawk boys track team this spring. Banderas now leads the Class A discus charts after unleashing a throw of 168 feet 4 inches in the rain last Wednesday at the Heartland Athletic Conference meet. That performance, 4th overall in the state this spring, broke the school record he already held from earlier this season. He goes into Wednesday's district meet at Omaha Bryan second in Class A in the shot put with a 54.4 behind only Fremont's Dallas Thompson, who is at 55.8. Banderas is 6th in the state overall in his throwing, 9 feet further than he did at the state meet last year. He's already blown right through the high school marks his older brother Jarsh had in the shot put and discus. Jarsh was more known as a hurdler at Southwest winning the Class A gold medal in the 110-meter high hurdles at the 2012 state meet. It was that kind of mobility that made Josh a 4-year starting linebacker for the Huskers with the possibility of a pro career after signing as a free agent with Denver. Josh tried to teach me the hurdles, but I never got into them, said Anthony, who is 5 years younger than his brother. I did shot put at an early age and always had fun with it. The throws show your power and explosiveness. I like the challenge of getting the technique down and always trying to improve on your PR. Instead, Anthony is taking aim at his father, Tom's high school shot put distance. Anthony said his father, a former Husker tight end, threw 56.5 when he was in high school. Anthony also has his sights on the Southwest school record, which is 55.9.5. Not bad considering Anthony at 6'1.5", 215 pounds, is often the smallest thrower at the shot and discus rings. He makes up for it with his quickness across the ring, sound technique, and strength that belies his size. Anthony's been working his tail off in the weight room. He's extremely coachable, and he's mentally tough. Those three things are why he's having an exceptional season, Southwest coach Brett Schuster said. He's made tremendous strides in both events. Well, it's 11:59 now. It's now turned to 12
o'clock.
Yeah, boy, I just hit that right on the button. So it's time for us to leave, and this has been Paul Murphy reading articles from the Lincoln Journal-Star, wishing you a very blessed day.
And have a good week. This is Rick Miner. Yeah, Carl used to throw a football harder than anybody else I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
And he always used to love to call this play, what's it called, jump pass over the middle. And he would throw it hard to start with, and he always threw it to me because I could jump.
Uh-huh.
If you're right in the middle, where there's like 3 linebackers and all linemen right there,
Uh-huh.
and the quarterback is throwing the ball right up here,
Or you're going to get hit.
killed.
Ouch, that didn't
Oh,
feel
I used to
good.
come in the huddle and say, damn it, Carl, quit calling that play. I hate it.
Let's go to the second page.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya.
All right. Want to jump into the
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rick. Oh, it's all out there, babe.
Appreciate it. How you doing?
You know, I'm afraid about cracks because I'm so sweet on my milk on it. I feel that feeling. That woman.
Just like you.
How many people do you frustrate? Oh.
Mix these stories up.
I think all the oh. Yeah, I found all the studios were taken up.
Are they already?
No, I got the last one.
Okay, good.
And the seat's still warm.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's going on with this one.
I
Shows.
didn't do it.
Sure you did.
Oh,
He said send it. save it, send
I-
it. Save it, you didn't send
If you send it when you press that last button,
it. Save
see, I punched it a couple times.
it. Okay. Oh, you did spell that.
That's the first mistake I made today.
Well, I'm sure. Hello. Hi, sweetie, how you doing? Good. Been exercising? Okay. Well, I know. That's okay. They're helping. They're helping her. That's all we care about right now. Just don't worry about anything else. Just know that they're helping. Okay. They're all nice people.